In today's video, we're going to walk through adding support for dynamic database-driven validation rules managed from the built-in admin UI, and how this feature can be utilized in a database-first approach for rapid application development. When building APIs with ServerStack, validation can be done in a declarative way using attributes on your request data transfer objects or DTOs, as well as using custom validators using fluent validation syntax. Another option is to use a validation source implementation that persists rules to your database dynamically. Using an ORM Lite validation source lets you dynamically create and enforce validation rules at runtime using a friendly web interface for administrators built right into the ServerStack admin UI. This enables you to select one of your service APIs and create new validation rules with prompts for built-in common examples, meaning non-developers can implement these changes right from the web interface. This can empower business analysts, product managers, or others to enforce requirements directly into an internal application and quickly respond to edge cases without needing to redeploy your application. In today's video, we're going to create a database-first application complete with an admin web UI to manage data, users, and dynamic validation rules. The steps we'll follow to achieve this will be start with an empty web template, use an existing database with AutoQuery and AutoGen to create our services based on our database schema, add support for the database to act as a validation source, and finally create a few validations for our generated CRUD services to enforce some business rules. To follow along, you'll need two things installed: the .NET 6 SDK and the ServerStack.NET X tool. If you don't have the ServerStack.NET X tool installed, you can install it using the command .NET tool install-gx. With our dependencies installed, we will use the ServerStack website to create our new project. Navigating to ServerStack.NET and clicking on the Get Started button at the top right will show us the project generator. Here we can select which type of project we want, provide a name, specify any optional features to include, and click on the template we want to use. To better illustrate how it all works, we're going to create an empty web template by providing a name and clicking on the web template to download a zip of our new solution. Once downloaded, we can extract it to a local working directory and open the solution with our favorite .NET IDE. In your IDE, you will see the solution has the 4 standard ServerStack projects. That is the app host project, the service interface project, the service model project, and the tests project. Check out our app host fundamentals video or documentation if you want to learn more, but for this walkthrough, we'll be mainly updating the configuration of our application in the app host project. Next, we will use the example Northwind SQLite database to demonstrate the database-first approach of using a validation source with generated AutoQuery services. AutoQuery will generate APIs for tables in the database, and we will use dynamic validation rules we create to customize our own business rules. To set up all these different aspects of our project, we can use the xmix command to mix in these configurations from pre-made templates. These templates enable us to quickly add the Northwind SQLite example database, generated AutoQuery and SQLite support, credentials-based authentication provider, and validation source support to have our runtime validation and admin UI to manage them. First, we will bring in the Northwind SQLite database by running the command xmix space northwind.sqlite from our apphost project directory. Next, we will add the AutoQuery with AutoGen support and SQLite support by running the command xmix space autocrudgen space SQLite. The SQLite mix template adds the configure.db.cs with the required NuGet dependencies to configure ORM Lite with a SQLite connection. By default, the SQLite connection is an in-memory connection, but we will change this to point to our northwind.sqlite file database. Next, the autocrudgen mix template adds the configure.autoquery.cs file, which uses the generated CRUD services option with AutoQuery as well as sets the auto-register flag to true. This is what will scan our database tables to generate ServerStack APIs so we can manage data in our database. Before we add the validation source support, we will need to add authentication and the admin user features plugin, since validation is managed from the admin UI web interface. We can add authentication support using the mix command of xmix auth/authdb. This will add two files to your app host project, the configure.auth.cs file and the configure.authrepository.cs file. These configure some default authentication providers and use ORM Lite with our registered database to store user auth information. In the configure.authrepository.cs file, we will also uncomment a line of code to create a demo admin user, which we will use to log into the admin UI. And to add support for the admin UI itself to our application, we will add the plugin admin users feature to our AppHost instance. And finally, to add the validation source support, we can run the command xmix validation-source. This will add the configure.validation.cs file, which will use our existing ORM Lite database connection to initialize the required tables and register the validation source to store our validation rules. With all that set up, we can now run our application for the first time. We will be greeted with a simple Hello World page with links to API Explorer. API Explorer is a web UI which enables the browsing and discovery of your application's server stack services. By clicking the View API Details, we will be showing the routes, request, and response details of the Hello API. On the left-hand side, we can see a large list of other APIs that are registered in our application. Most of these APIs are AutoQuery CRUD services to manage our data. The easiest way to manage data in these tables using the AutoQuery services is by using the lowcode UI, which can be found at /lowcode or linked when viewing the details of any AutoQuery CRUD service. For example, if we're looking for the query region API in the API Explorer, we can see the lowcode logo at the top right where we can view this service in the lowcode app. Clicking on this button and we will see the data in the regions table as well as the ability to create, update and delete rows. If we use the plus sign to create a new row, provide a new primary key which is required by default, the current system will allow us to create a region without a description. Let's use the admin UI to create a new validation while our application is still running to make sure the description is not empty. By clicking on the sign in link at the top right, we can log in with the demo admin user credentials and see the additional links to our admin UI. The dashboard shows us the landing page of the admin UI, which has stats of our system as well as links to the user and validation management. Clicking on validation, we can choose the create region request to add our new validation rule. Here we have two different types of validation rules to create, the type validation rules and the property validation rules. The type validation rules are rules you can apply to the whole request. For example, currently the create regions can be done by anonymous users. Let's restrict this action to authenticated users only by using the isAuthenticated quick select type validator. Before creating this rule, let's open another session, this time unauthenticated, and create a new region. Navigating the new session to the lowcode app, we can use the plus sign on the region table, specify a primary key ID, and click create. Here we get another row created. Back in our admin UI session, we can create the rule, and now the unauthenticated session is unable to create new rows. We can change the error message and code to fit our requirements, as well as our own notes about the validation rule itself. Type validators enable us to create permissions and role-based rules so we can lock down API endpoints to users with specific types of access. Next, let's create a property validation rule that will prevent empty region descriptions being created. We can use the quick select property validator of not empty and use the drop-down menu of valid properties, selecting region description. This time, we will specify our own error message asking the user nicely to provide a value for region description. Now, regardless of user access, when we try to create a new region with an empty description, we will see our error message in the lowcode app. Remembering, we haven't added any code for all these API services, and the validation rules are populating all the way through to our low-code application to the specific field they are applied and presenting nicely in the UI. If we try the same API call from API Explorer, we can see more detail about how programmatic users of our API will see the validation error in the response. We still get the friendly view in our API Explorer form, but we can see the JSON response in the panel below. So we have a well-behaving API returning the expected HTTP status code already integrated into a UI for admins and power users to start managing our system, all without restarting our application. Let's add something a bit more complicated. Let's say we want to restrict our region description further by only allowing alphabetic characters. We can still use a predefined validator of regular expression to achieve this. Providing our expression to reject anything with non-alphabetic characters, we can see our custom message when testing. If we need even more complex rules, we can use the script sharp syntax to perform a range of different checks. Here we can use the it object to perform functions like contains and starts with and string them together to form more complex rules. Script Sharp has many built-in functions, including the ability to make database queries during validation. And if you need your own custom logic, you can write your own C# methods that then can be used in the Script Sharp syntax. Service Stack Low-Code combined with the admin UI for management of users and validation provides a complete solution for backend staff and other non-developers to manage their systems more efficiently. If you're a small team of developers that are responsible for numerous internal applications, this can empower those business owners to manage more of their own systems, giving developers more time to focus on integration and other development tasks. Well, that's it for this video. If you have any suggestions or feedback about our templates or videos, let us know in the comments. If you want to know more, check out our other videos and join us in the ServerStack community through our Discord and GitHub discussions. ServerStack is free for individuals and open source projects, so anyone is welcome. And as always, thanks for watching.